So you guys have been assigned 18-10, and I've done 18-9 just to give you an example. And the first thing that they want you to do, of course, you download the data set, right, which is just these two columns that I have here. I've done a little bit of the work there. The first thing they want you to do is a chart. Whether it asks for that connect or not, I'm not sure. But it's relatively easy. Let's identify the information that we want on the chart. It's really just this column that we're going to do, and hit insert, type chart. You know, here you just kind of cruise along, and it kind of shows you. Actually, they're all the same except for the two of them. So we'll just hit that one. Boom. There we go. And we say in this case that it's fairly equal. It's not erratic, I guess, is maybe the term that I might use. So I think the book uses a little bit different term, but it's not crazy. You know, it's not like boom, 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 boom. Okay. Then it asks us to, let me see what the language is in the book or in the problem, is compute all the possible forecasts using a smoothing coefficient of 0.3, or that's 30%. Wow, it's actually quite a bit. But okay, well, our first, this is going to be our kind of a forecast here. I should put in there. Okay, and our first forecast is really just whatever we did, okay, in the prior period 1, right? And so we can just bring that over, you know, 104. Now I've kind of created an extra column here, and the reason I did that is this. The answer that they're going to be looking for in Connect is rounded really just to one place. You can see these are all 0.40, 0.60, 0.20. Okay, so it's just rounded to the one place, and yet when we do our math, when we apply this 30%, 0.3, we're going to get some big long decimals, right? And so I needed to round it, and you can do it manually. You can do your calculations here like I did, and then come over here and plug this in manually. But I chose to do it this way. First, I just bring over the 104. Okay, that's fine. My next one down then is just going to be this one plus my error, my smoothing coefficient, okay, times the error from that. And the error was, you know, the 132. What my demand actually ended up being minus my error, or I'm sorry, minus my forecast. It gives me my error. So let's just plug that equation in. So I'm going to have it's equal to this, right? Plus, and I need parentheses, my smoothing coefficient. And I'm going to hit F4 so that reference is going to stay the same, and that's times then my error, which is in this column here, and I want the one from the prior, you know, from the one step up. Okay, I need in parentheses, I hit enter. It gives me that. Okay, and I can drag that down. Okay, which I had already done, right? Now if I looked at these, just to give you an example, right, you see the answers, well, they only go out to 2 decimals, so I guess it's not too bad. But here's just 1 decimal, and if it goof up, it wouldn't give you probably say that you were correct in Connect, so I kind of want you to switch it to this, and it's relatively easy to do. All you have to do is hit this. Okay, oops, I've already got that, so I'm gonna hit delete there. Okay, I've changed all my answers, but I'll come up here, get my function thing. Let's just leave it on all, and then I'm going to come down alphabetically to round. Okay, and the number in this case, I'm going to just bring it over, is this one. Okay, but the number of digits that I want is just going to be 1. Okay, and so there we go, and you know, you can still mess with this if you want, but it's going to be rounded just to that 1 digit. And so if I carry that down as well, okay, it rounds all these off, and that'll give you the answer that the answers that they're looking for in Connect. Okay, then it you know, it calculates the error. And how do I do that? I should have showed you guys that. Of course, this is just simply equal to this minus this. Gives me that. I drag that down. Okay. But then we don't want these negative numbers in here. We want everything to be positive, so we can kind of get an average. It's kind of like finding a standard deviation a little bit, an average of how far off we are, right? As opposed to having the plus or minus, we just want to know how far off we are. And so we got to get rid of these negatives. Well, the way to do that is something called the absolute value. Okay, and so in this case, I'll hit this. All, it's actually the very first one under all, hit OK. And what do I want to do? I want the absolute value of this number. In this case, it's going to be the same thing, right? Because any of these that are positive numbers, there you go. You could do this manually again too. It's kind of nice to know how these functions work. I drag that down. Converts anything that was a negative, these three, into positives. And then I think one of the last questions it asks, what is the error associated with period 11 forecast? Okay, and so we don't. Here's our period 11 forecast. Actually, this is 120.8. I believe it asks for that. Okay, and then the error that's associated with that. Okay, that means it could be. Okay, and we don't know if it's going to be a positive or a negative, but it could be plus or minus this number here. So plus or minus that 18.61, that's our error. Color code that as well. Okay, and that would be our answers then for 18-9.